What Hendrick Motorsports announced on Monday was already big enough on its own. But what happened in the days before that announcement may end up being the more important story, and almost nobody has told it. Here is the version you already know. A 20-year-old rookie running 34th in points was handed the most decorated car number of the modern era. Multi-year deal. Ally staying on as the sponsor. The future arrives in 2028. That is the headline. That is the part everybody covered. Here is the part that got skipped. Before the press release, before the ceremonial signing, before the hat and the handshake and the photographs on the Hendrick campus in Concord, there was a phone call. And the man on the other end of that call is the reason this deal exists in the shape it does. He is not a driver. He has never won a Cup Series championship as an owner. He put his first car on track in the 2021 Daytona 500, and he built the whole organization out of nothing before that. In January of 2024, he signed a 17-year-old to a development contract, before that kid had ever started a National Series stock car race. He put him in the best equipment he could find. He watched him turn into the most wanted young prospect in American motorsport. And then, when the most successful team in NASCAR history called and asked for permission to talk to that kid about a job in 2028, he said yes. Nobody was fired, nobody breached a contract, no team filed a grievance, and no owner went public with a complaint. And yet by the end of that week, the succession plan for a 15-time champion organization was locked in. A rival team had lost the best young driver it has ever signed, and not one person in the garage said a bad word about any of it. The clock on this runs long. 11 races left in 2026, one more full season after that. Nothing actually changes on track until 2028. So why would an owner hand over his most valuable asset and then publicly wish the team taking him well? What does Justin Marks understand about this sport that the rest of us are still working out? That question is what this video is about. If you want NASCAR coverage that goes past the press release, Freedom Line News is still small and still early. And subscribing now means you were here before the algorithm found us. Start with the order of events, because the order is the story. On July 23rd, Alex Bowman signed a one-year extension with Hendrick Motorsports, covering the 2027 season. In the same announcement, the team confirmed it would be his last as a full-time Cup Series driver. Bowman is 33. He has 8 points-paying wins for the organization and 7 playoff appearances since 2018. Next season will be his 10th with Hendrick, and it will carry him past 400 career Cup starts. He did not frame it purely as a health decision. He talked about listening to his body, and the record supports him there. Concussions. A broken vertebra from a sprint car crash. 4 races missed this season with vertigo. But he also talked about wanting a life outside the car, and he was clear the timing was his own. That is the human part. Here is the business part. The moment Bowman said 2027 was the end, Hendrick Motorsports had something it almost never has. A confirmed opening in one of 4 cars, roughly a year and a half in advance, with a fully funded sponsor already attached to it. Ally has backed the number 48 since 2021. A seat like that does not stay empty for long. And Ally was not a passive party in this. Andrea Brimmer, the company's chief marketing officer, sat in on the announcement and pointed out that Bowman's referral program alone had opened hundreds of new accounts. Her read on Zilisch was that he already has the values and the personality the brand wants. Once Bowman's decision was made, the first thing the organization did was reach out to Trackhouse and get the blessing to even have the conversation. Not to negotiate, not to poach, to ask. Think about what that request actually means competitively. When the sponsor is that specific about the replacement is not a coin flip. But then, before Hendrick Motorsports called Connor Zilisch, it called Justin Marks. Jeff Gordon described it plainly. He said yes. And when the deal became public, he went further. Marks called it a bittersweet moment for Trackhouse, said he was truly happy for Zilisch to get an opportunity most drivers only dream about, and made a point of saying the team still intends to accomplish big things with him through 2027. Marks is being asked to greenlight a discussion that ends with a rival taking the driver he found first, signed first, developed and promoted. He is under no obligation to do it. Zilisch is under contract at Trackhouse through the end of 2027. Marks could have said no, or said nothing at all, and forced Hendrick to wait until the contract expired. Gordon's summary of all of it was that the stars pretty much aligned. That is a generous way to put it, because alignment is not what happened here. Something was traded, and the cost is not abstract. Marks now runs a race team where one of his 3 drivers has a publicly confirmed exit date. Every debrief, every setup direction, every piece of feedback the number 88 generates over the next season and a half feeds a driver who takes all of it to Chevrolet's flagship organization in 2028. Trackhouse has to keep developing him anyway. The margin for error on that is thin, and Marks accepted it without a fight. And this is where the numbers stop cooperating with the story. Because if you only looked at the results sheet, you would not sign Connor Zilisch to anything right now. He sits 34th in the standings out of 35 full-time drivers. He has 1 top 10 finish all year, a 7th at Sonoma. He has 9 DNFs in 25 starts, a number that already dwarfs what recent Rookie of the Year winners posted across an entire season. 6 days after Hendrick Motorsports announced him as the future of the number 48, Zilisch drove into the back of Riley Herbst's already wrecked car at New Hampshire, ended his day on lap 222, finished 35th, and told his crew over the radio that he was horrible. Kevin Harvick's response to the whole signing was blunt. "Those excuses," he said, "do not live at Hendrick." So Rick Hendrick committed his most valuable seat to a driver in the middle of the worst statistical stretch of his career. Trackhouse gave permission for it, and everybody involved sounded relaxed about it. But that is not even the biggest part. Go back to 2025. Zilisch spent that season driving the number 88 in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, on loan from Trackhouse for JR Motorsports. 10 wins, 8 poles, the regular season championship, a record 18 consecutive top 5 finishes, Rookie of the Year, and runner-up for the title. He also delivered JR Motorsports its 100th series victory at Indianapolis that July. Dale Earnhardt Jr. said watching that run reminded him of the years Kyle Busch dominated the series, when rival owners simply accepted they were not racing for wins. Now here is the detail that reframes everything. JR Motorsports is not an independent team. It is co-owned by Dale Earnhardt Jr., Kelly Earnhardt Miller, and Rick Hendrick, so Trackhouse loaned its prize development driver to an organization Rick Hendrick holds equity in. For a full season, Hendrick had a front-row seat to Zilisch's engineering feedback, his debriefs, his temperament under pressure, all of it generated inside a company he part owns. Gordon has since said the one question they needed answered was what Zilisch could do on ovals. That question got answered in 2025, in JR Motorsports equipment. The evaluation did not begin in July of 2026 when Bowman made his call. It had already been running for a year, in Hendrick's own building, which changes what the blessing actually was. Marks was not granting access to a stranger who had never seen his driver work. He had already handed Hendrick a full season of first-hand evidence. And when Trackhouse revealed its 2026 car numbers, the letter telling Zilisch he would carry the number 88 was written by Dale Earnhardt Jr. The number Zilisch had just won 10 races with at JRM, the number Dale Jr. made famous. The pipeline was drawn long before anyone announced anything. Asked about the collision between those two, Gordon said the conversations have not happened yet, that Zilisch will keep representing Red Bull at Trackhouse, and that Hendrick plans to stand fully behind Phorm. 2 years is a long runway. It is also a long time for a conflict to sit unresolved. Not a promise either. Zoom out, and the hardest problem in all of this belongs to the man who made it possible. Justin Marks now has 1 season to solve the number 88. Trackhouse is in its 6th Cup season, has 15 wins, and made the postseason in all 4 seasons before this one. But 2026 has been a grind. Ross Chastain has struggled for consistency in the number 1. Then there is Corey Day, the dirt racing prodigy Hendrick has been developing, the driver plenty of people assumed was next in line for a Hendrick Cup seat. Gordon addressed that directly, saying Day is still on a steep learning curve and will run the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series again in 2027. And Trackhouse has already been through one version of this. Daniel Suarez drove the number 99 for 5 seasons before the team declined to renew him ahead of 2026, and that number was retired from the lineup entirely. This is only the second year Trackhouse has fielded 3 full-time cars. Building a driver from scratch is hard. Shane Van Gisbergen sits 16th, holding the final chase spot by 31 points over Ryan Preece with 1 race left. And the driver Marks bet the team's future on is 34th, still learning, and now leaving. Marks said the mandate is to position that 88 team to move into 2028 ready. Ready for who, he did not say. Replacing a generational one on a deadline is a different problem. So everybody in this story is carrying something different into the next 18 months. For Connor Zilisch, it is about proving the results sheet was the car and the calendar, not the driver. For Alex Bowman, it is about closing out a decade at the sport's most decorated organization on his own terms, with the successor already named and watching. For Justin Marks, it is about finding out whether generosity in this sport ever actually gets repaid. For Corey Day, it is about being told he is valued and being passed over in the same sentence. For Shane Van Gisbergen and Ross Chastain, it is about carrying a team through a transition that has nothing to do with either of them. For Rick Hendrick, it is about whether a 20-year-old with 9 DNFs becomes the next name on a list that already includes Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson. And for Jeff Gordon, it is about proving the version of himself he sees in Zilisch is really there. That is the part I keep circling back to. This was not a raid. Nobody lost a negotiation. The most powerful team in NASCAR asked permission, got it, and announced a driver change a year and a half early, and the owner who gave it up said thank you on the way out. That either represents a genuinely healthier version of this sport, or it represents how completely the Chevrolet Alliance has blurred the line between rival and affiliate. I do not think we know yet, and that is what makes this so interesting to watch. So I want to hear your read on it. Did Justin Marks do the right thing by blessing this deal and taking the goodwill, or did he just hand Hendrick Motorsports the next decade for free? Pick one and tell me why in the comments. And before any of that resolves, there is a season to finish. Saturday night, the Coke Zero Sugar 400 at Daytona, the regular season finale, 160 laps around 2.5 miles, with 3 chase spots still unclaimed, and 31 points separating Van Gisbergen from Preece. One bad restart changes everything down there. I will be watching that cut line all night. If you want that breakdown the moment it is over, Freedom Line News is where it lands.